Thank you, Charlotte, for subscribing to a community that you
Absolutely.
have absolutely no personal stake
So,
in.
today we are going to be streaming some games from the Towards a Free Palestine Game Jam, which is a jam that we, and I think that's a late subscription sound, but I don't know where that's coming from. It's a jam that we helped set up, and I'll read the description. I think that's probably the easiest way to go about things. Um, Free Palestine is a concise and evocative phrase we often hear. In some ways, it has a clear, immediate message, but in other ways, it might seem abstract and it requires dedicated thought and work. Freedom is what every single Palestinian across the world needs and deserves. As for the rest of us, Nelson Mandela put it best, we know too well that our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of the Palestinians. But while we might stand for a free Palestine in principle, what might it look like and how do we make it a reality? As part of the Towards a Free Palestine Game Jam, we're asking you not just to imagine a free Palestine, but to build it. So essentially, what that means is, for those who also don't know what game jams are, they are short events. They can be a day long, a weekend long, a week, 2 weeks. Ours happened to be 2 weeks, where you build an entire game within that time frame. You can do it solo, you can do it with people, but pretty often it can be a way to test your try and kind of like increase your skills, learn a new skill, something like that. It can be mechanics focused, but ours was more like thematic. And we had around 9 submissions. We haven't actually checked them out ourselves yet because we've been saving it for the stream. To start, you can see one of them on screen now, which is an interactive poem, basically. They'll be all through the browser, and then we'll kind of go through the games that we have downloaded bit by bit as well. Might be a bit slow in between, because in order for Sara to hear sound, I kind of need to change settings on Discord, but we'll do it as best we can. We are, yeah,
Yeah, it's going to be good.
no problem.
It's going to be good. Thank you for the introduction to the jam, Bee. Yeah, we're really excited to check out these submissions and to chat about them today. One more thing before we dive into it. We've been running a fundraiser for the past few months, and we're still raising money for medical aid for Palestinians, for those of you who aren't aware. Medical Aid for Palestinians is an amazing organization that does incredibly vital work to get medical aid to Palestinians. But what does that mean? Why is it important? What does that look like? Of course, as many of us know, since October, Palestinians in Gaza have been facing a genocidal assault from Israel. The scale of this violence is enormous and larger than the scale of previous military assaults on Gaza. But Medical Aid for Palestinians has been doing this work for long before that. Since 2007, Israel placed a blockade on Gaza, which basically contributed to the destruction of infrastructure because Israel has complete control over what resources go in and out of the region, as well as what people go in and out of the region. And Israel also routinely, every kind of couple of years, launches a military assault on Gaza. Because of the blockade and the repeated military assaults, Gaza is known by many and is, been reported by international humanitarian organizations and research organizations to be the world's largest open-air prison, and also referred to by some as a concentration camp. So with this situation, not only does the lack of kind of sanitation and the repeated military assaults result in kind of a perpetual healthcare crisis for Palestinians living in Gaza, which has been the case since 2007, it also means that the healthcare infrastructure in Gaza is totally destroyed. And the most recent assault has taken this situation to its absolute extreme. So the work that Medical Aid for Palestinians do is absolutely vital. That's just a little bit of the picture. I'm not going to go on forever because I could talk about that forever. That's just a part of the picture because that's how dire it is. In any case, we're still raising money for them. I believe we've got a couple of commands that you can.
We do. We've got Palestine, which gives you the link to our fundraiser. Also BDS, which I'll do just now, which will lead you to both the BDS movement as well as learning more about Palestinian struggle at Decolonize Palestine. Decolonize Palestine is a very useful resource if you are new to things and you want to learn more about what's going on. And the BDS movement stands for Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions, and gives you information on boycotts that we, the public, should engage in, companies that we should put pressure on, some natural boycotts that have risen. For example, McDonald's was just kind of one that happened that people spoke about, but BDS didn't directly push, and now they're pushing it as well because of how involved McDonald's has been in supporting specifically the IOF, literally giving them free meals. So both are really great resources for learning more about what's going on.
Yeah, I guess just before we dive into the game, I think that in light of everything that's going on, and completely by accident, we're streaming on the day that South Africa takes the case against Israel to the ICJ, or the International
Might be Court
Criminal
of
Justice Court? What does ICJ stand for again? Court of Justice?
Yeah, the International Court of Justice.
Court of Justice? I'm Googling it. Thank you. Thanks for that. We got there eventually. So send your thoughts, prayers, good vibes to South Africa today. In terms of this game jam, I think that, the theme towards a free Palestine, we really wanted to kind of challenge all of us to think about what it means to stand in solidarity in Palestine actively, and to kind of enact moving towards a free Palestine and acting in solidarity with Palestine. So that's kind of the thing that I'm really especially interested in looking at today's submissions, like how that part of the theme is brought into play, because obviously, like, making games about Palestine in any way, shape, or form is great, but I'm really interested to see how these entries
also, I'm just going to pop a link in there to Medical Aid for Palestinians for Barika Geek there for you. You can learn more about it there. That's, I will always appreciate people trying to make sure they're aware of where they're sending money to. But it is a really great and important organisation that is providing first aid care where it's incredibly necessary at the moment in Gaza. But yeah, you can learn more about it all there. I also want to just, on the point of what's happening with the ICJ currently, there is a Twitter user who I'll put their @ in chat now, who this is useful just in the game sphere. If you head to that person's Twitter, they're actually a video game and pop culture writer, but they're also a lawyer, and they have been covering what's happening during the court case, kind of giving like step-by-step outlines, who's talking and why they're relevant, and sharing things as well. So I find that quite... I've only discovered him today, but he seems to be quite a useful resource in terms of staying up to date with that, if people are interested. Yeah, no problem. I also realised I should maybe introduce myself, because I have done a stream here before, but I'm also still relatively, in the great scheme of things, new to Game Assist. I'm Bee, my pronouns are they, them. I'm working on things behind the scenes, but I also helped with, Sara and I set up this game jam together along with Arabic Games and numerous people. Yeah, so still new, but happy to be here. Happy to be here. Well, maybe so, but
happy
necessary.
Happy to be here. Oh, that was bad. That was really bad. Thank you. Yeah, I didn't even think to do that. I mean, some of y'all might be new to the channel, especially if you're coming from Gazebo Kids. Hi,
thank you very much, Charlotte, for the
Hello, welcome to
£20 donation there to our fundraiser.
Thank you so much. Look at that. Look at that animation of Hatsune Miku running to deliver medical aid to Palestinians. Never gets old.
Yes.
Okay.
I am
right.
ready if you are.
How are we feeling about diving in?
Cool. I realised I could actually download this one. Didn't notice that.
I'm
but that's
ready.
fine. We'll still run it through the browser. If chat and anyone can let me know how things are running, just because I have not had to stream from this computer where I'm also sharing my screen with someone on Discord, I might need to lower the quality for Sara, unfortunately, if it's running a bit slow. If people could let me know.
That's okay, I'll live. I'm gonna share the link to the jam
Yes.
in the chat
Can
as well,
everyone
if folks are interested in checking
hear
this
this?
out.
Is it too loud? I might need to turn it down. That might make Sara a bit quiet because unfortunately it's all coming through the PC audio. Actually, you know, before I do this, I'm going to reload it just so there's no sound. I'm going to introduce this game. That's what I'm going to do first of all. There is a way to make the game bigger.
Wish I could run.
It's a little loud. Okay.
Wish I could run with my hair to deliver medical aid to Palestine. So
yes, there is a full
true.
stream mode. I will do that in just a second.
Is there any
I'm
way
going to
make
have to
the
turn
game
down the
a little
PC
big?
audio. That will make Sara quieter. So a bit of voice clashing in which way? But in the meantime, I will quickly introduce the game. There's not a huge there's not all of them have long descriptions. This is called I Wish for a Day by username Insurgentes300. Quite simply described as a game poem about bounding out of old narratives. Okay.
It's okay.
I wish for a day all flowers may bloom. I wish for a day going to the grocery store doesn't take the whole day. I wish for a day I can sell my tomatoes everywhere. I wish for a day friends stop not being around. I wish for a day there's no wall. I wish for a day I can sell my tomatoes everywhere. I wish for a day I'm not bound to old narratives. I wish for a day where I don't go through clearance. I wish for a day a relative isn't in the hospital. I wish for a day houses don't vanish. I wish for a day with a clear beach. I wish for a day I'm no longer a headline. I wish for a day resentment stops. I wish for a day this is no longer a wish. I wish for a day I won't think there will be no more days. Ceasefire now. This was developed by Miguel Quezada. I wish for a day all flowers may bloom. Might be. Sure. Right, so I'll just quickly turn Sara up again so everyone can hear them a bit better. So also I think just going off of that one quickly, something we should make a point of, which probably should have made beforehand. Some of these games might be a bit difficult to experience. As you can see there was some quite raw emotions being put on display. I think it's important that we do confront those as best we can head on, because it takes a lot of it's such a horrific situation, and I know there can be a tendency to sometimes for some people to prefer overly comfortable games, and I think that can be fine to an extent, but yeah, there is a possibility that some of these games will be quite difficult and challenging and upsetting. But I ask everyone if they can to continue joining us to go through them. Yeah, so, and again, all these games are going to be quite different as well. Obviously, that was quite almost like an art installation piece, something like you might see in a museum. I've definitely seen things, like that were displayed on projectors in quite large rooms. You could easily imagine that being there, especially with the kind of repetitive droning sound and the sound effect being played as more text comes through.
I think that now that people can hear us, I guess that maybe we could briefly summarize what we said with regards to the game already, and any additional
absolutely.
points before we move on to the next one.
I think that's a great idea.
How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
Cool, great.
Okay, great.
Would you like to go, or shall I go?
Okay, I can start. Yeah, so hopefully you guys would have been able to see and hear the game okay. We talked about the kind of droning sound and how it reminded us of the drones over Gaza, and a lot of people have been talking about this specific drone sound, which they call zenana, which, whoosh, you know Arabic better than I do, but I think zenana is some kind of insect. So it's like this droning sound, like an insect, and it's constant. And that's kind of the sound that people are living with under bombardment in Gaza right now. And we talked about kind of that it felt like there was this increasing sense of urgency or desperation that feels like what a lot of people are saying they're going through right now. Understandably, obviously, with just being exposed every single day to these same conditions, and that was conveyed through kind of like the cycling through the images increasing in speed, or either it actually was doing that or we perceived it to be doing that, which I think either way is significant. And then we were talking about how the words of the poem were expressing kind of a wish or a dream of something outside of this circumstance and this like repetitious cycle of experiencing violence and feeling desperation. And those wishes ranged from kind of mundane things like being able to go to the grocery store to kind of like a larger scale, like a structural scale of freedom. And is there anything else that we said before we started talking about the flowers?
I think the other point, which is not necessarily to do with kind of the representations, but I compared it to an exhibition piece in a museum, and it's the kind of thing that you might see like projected on a wall. It felt very much like that kind of style of art.
Yes, absolutely.
But other than that, I think we were talking more about the flowers and the kind of things they represent, and then we started getting audio issues. And I was, again, might be less visually clear on your side because of how we're having to do things and the technical difficulties. But you can kind of see a person there. And I was finding that interesting because of the kind of need to introduce that humanizing aspect that Palestinians have been basically forced to do for many, many years, but also in particular over the last 3 months. Which I think contrasted quite interestingly with the images of flowers or plants or whatever it is, that there is a wish for plants to survive and grow and to be able to take part in that, but also kind of for the self, and like, people are just as important as the nature that is there as well, is kind of how I feel what it could possibly be, the inclusion of a person, but that not necessarily being the main focus, because it's only kind of towards the end that the person appeared, and for very brief flashes.
Yeah, I mean that's a really lovely reading. I think there's so much to be said in that of like how Palestinians are indigenous to the land and are the caretakers of the land, and how that's represented in that image, but how the growing or nurturing of a plant is also the growing or the nurturing of Palestinians as people and as a society, and how like interwoven those things are, not just symbolically, but literally, physically speaking. So it's kind of amazing how I feel like it's kind of amazing how this game both manages to kind of communicate like desperation, and living within a cycle of vicious oppressive circumstances, but also like within that context, to dream and to hope, and the potential or the hope specifically of growing something amidst the devastation. I think that it's incredible that it manages to do those things at once.
I especially in the context of how much farming is a part of the lives of Palestinians. Obviously, in particular, there's no olive imagery in this particular game, but again, like farming and like you say, caring and nurturing for the land. I think it's also the kind of conversations around olive trees, and obviously they hold massive symbolic importance and literal importance. But I think it was quite an interesting alternative take, not necessarily going for the imagery that everyone is familiar with, but making it much more personal, and on an individual scale, which felt like it was nice to get like just a different perspective in that regard. And also there's
for sure.
a great point in chat here about how the flowers kind of look like orchids, and we have a couple of people who think they might be orchids, and yes, they are. Like if they are orchids, they are famously difficult to grow and tend for, which, if they are orchids, I think makes the imagery like even more powerful, and has this idea of, even with it being difficult, whether it is life in Gaza or caring for a plant that that doesn't really necessarily even want to grow, and the effort and love being put into that is quite a beautiful idea as well.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I thank you for recognizing the orchid, because I wouldn't have been able to tell that. And
Neither would
as
I.
you say, interesting, because not the classical like floral or kind of natural imagery that's associated with Palestine, but something very, very interesting. Also, Whoosh, thank you for confirming. Zanana does mean a buzzing sound that would come usually from a nagging insect like a mosquito or a fly. Thank you for clarifying that.
And from a fella, Bee, orchids need special soil. Regular potting soil would kill them. Again, kind of emphasizing the difficulty with which you have to look after this particular plant.
I love this.
Yeah, really great. Short, succinct, and just very, very evocative.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's something that we finished it and I was like, I want to chew on this. Like, I want to come back to this. I want to chew on this, which I think is always a good sign.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And any final thoughts on this one, or?
No, I think I feel ready to keep checking out more. There is a chance that we've still got 8 to go, and unfortunately, because of technical difficulties, we've lost a bit of time. So we'll fit in as much as we can. There is always a chance that we'll just have to do a part 2 stream, which I'm very happy to do, to continue checking these out, because I think it's well worth it. So we'll see how we fare, but we'll have a look at a couple more of the ones that are based on a browser.
Yeah, let's just see how it goes.
Cool. So now we've got Sound of Silence by Ahmed Mustafa, who actually submitted a couple of games. So we'll if we don't, we'll check out this one for now, and maybe we'll save another one for another stream if that's what ends up happening. The description for this one, we have quite a bit of text there as well.
Yeah, and I cannot read that, so if you wouldn't mind reading that.
Yes,
that
I can absolutely do that. So this one, in terms just of the game, is described as an isometric exploration and adventure game in which Jihad attempts to rescue his sister Marwa from under the rubble and at the same time find a way to avoid the airstrikes. So again, as we kind of spoke about earlier, which was hopefully not covered up by the fact that we were somewhat talking over each other accidentally because of OBS, again, these games might be difficult and not necessarily what everyone typically imagines a game to be, and so yeah, I guess just possibly prepare yourself for difficult imagery, and if you please too, like I mentioned earlier, try and look at it, be a part of it, because it's important to engage with. So
before we get in, sorry, sure. Did you say that it's about a boy called Jihad trying to save his sister?
Yes.
That's a really interesting choice already. But let's get in.
Sure. I'll read the text here for Sarah's sake as well. So it says quite big right in here, inspired by suffering that is hardly close to reality. And then in a quote, it says, "I don't know the impact of this simple game on the world, but I'm sure of its impact on me personally. I felt extreme helplessness as I saw what was happening, and I couldn't do anything. This wretched helplessness that makes you not taste a morsel of food or savor a drop of water. This helplessness was my motivator and the driving force behind the wheel of art. In the end, game development is my way of expression. Perhaps this game won't have the huge impact, as expected, that would alleviate the suffering of my people in Gaza, but that's the nature of art. Helpless in the face of the machine gun, but only in the short term. After that, the machine gun rusts, its carrier dies, and art remains eternal. Apologies from the killer won't bring the murdered back to life, and unfortunately neither will art, but if I knew a better way to help, I would do it. Is the world we live in now a world controlled by heartless people? I don't know. I hope the world stopped this madness as I've begun to lose faith in it." And that was from the creator of the game.
Wow. I mean, I really appreciate them sharing that with us.
Absolutely.
Yes, I think the background text was in Arabic.
It is, yes.
Irene Dirty Hands.
Okay, we'll have to possibly take a second for audio as well. We'll figure that out. I don't know what the audio levels are going to be like in this game.
Okay. I can't hear anything at the moment.
There's nothing right now.
Okay, I can hear it now.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's really heavy, and I just want to say that not only do I feel thankful that by co-hosting this jam we gave people an opportunity to express these kinds of emotions, but I also want to just express like my appreciation for this developer being so open about what they were feeling while they were making this. That's not easy.
No, not at all. So I think I lowered the master volume a bit, so hopefully people should hear it and don't need to turn down Sara, but please let me know if audio needs to be changed. Yeah.
Sliders are right to left, which is how Arabic reads.
Oh yes, of course. Very good point. I was thinking to myself, why are the sliders different? So very good point.
Wow, so Anglo-centric of you.
A little bit. No, genuinely, it's. I think we spoke about this when we were speaking with Ashraf about the jam initially. About how I've forgotten the name of the person who made it now, but there was someone who was developing a coding language in Arabic, like the language you can write in Arabic for the coding language, because coding languages are predominantly in English, and it's about trying to make programming as a whole, whether it be for the game side of things. This was it was featured at a games exhibition at the V&A a good few years ago, but it's about making it more broadly accessible to MENA and SWANA regions in a way that it hasn't historically been necessarily.
It's true, and it's a really important point. I think it's something that we don't often talk about in the study of games, but the fact that coding language is predominantly, almost exclusively in English is an enormous way that kind of colonialism expresses itself in the gaming industry. So that's really cool.
Right, so actually, yes. So the name of the person who came up with the programming language, which is, I'm not sure entirely how to pronounce it. It's spelled QALB. If you would know how to pronounce that at all.
Bulb?
Possibly, yes. And it's by made by Ramzi Nasser, Nasser.
Ramsey. How?
N
Do you
A
spell it?
Ramsey and then Nasser.
EY and then NA.
SSER.
SSER.
Yeah.
Ramsey Nasser.
Okay. So yeah, he's.
Bulb means heart.
Oh.
The core of something in a metaphorical sense. Thank you so much, Foosh, for being here and translating Arabic for us.
Gosh, that's really beautiful, actually. I love that a lot. Yeah, thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it. Great.
We love you.
Do you feel ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Cool.
Let's go.
Oh, okay. This is Marwa speaking. Look, make a wish. Jihad, I hope that missile doesn't kill anyone. Also, please let me know if the audio is okay. Just everyone. I can try and alter things if I need to. Oh, it's struggling a bit as it's loading. I apologize for this. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Can you see it okay, Sara? Do you need me to change the quality for you?
Yeah, it's a bit blurry, so I can't really read. So if you don't mind reading the text, then that's helpful. But it's good enough for me.
Game audio is a bit low. I think I'm gonna just on this occasion prioritize Sara's volume just because we've had some difficulties so far throughout stream. But thank you for letting me know. This is something that we can consider for future streams.
Thank you for prioritizing me.
Well, I just want to make sure everyone can hear you. So this is Jihad speaking. My goodness, what has happened here? Where did all this destruction come from? I must find Marwa. I hope she's okay.
Do we know if this one was a completed entry or if it was just made fresh for the jam?
This might have been one of the entries because we did have a couple that were finished, and this might be one of them. I can't remember the timeline of when things were uploaded.
Okay. Okay.
I'm
so...
also. No, go on.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I am. If you feel like you want to kind of prioritize maybe the fresher ones, I'm happy to do that if that's what you're feeling. Or
no, that's fine. I was just
Sure.
interested because obviously this looks like this must have taken a lot of effort.
Yeah, this is like is very in depth. And I'm already kind of having thoughts and feelings about the isometric view.
Mm.
And also realizing that there's a you might not be able to hear it so well, but there is the music that's playing is a cover of the song "Sound of Silence," the one that famously starts "Hello Darkness, My Old Friend."
Oh. Notice that is that in the opening menu, but it was like I think it was that he was playing it on an oud, the like string instrument that is commonly used in the Middle East, West Asia. I didn't realize that was Sound of Silence. That's really neat.
Yeah. Yeah, the little shadow behind the building.
I was looking up Kabrit games earlier to look more into them. I don't think I've heard of that before, Foosh, so please feel free to tell us more.
Ah, here we are. Jihad, is that you? Yes, it's me. What happened to my room? Mum will be really upset when she sees it like this. Maybe she won't buy me the big box of colours I wanted for my upcoming birthday next week. Come with me, we'll tidy it up together. Unfortunately, I can't stand up. These rocks are blocking me. All right, don't move. I'll look for something to help us.
She's stuck under the rubble, huh?
Yeah. There are no intact houses left. My goodness, did everyone perish? What about Mum? The world must know what's happening here. Here you are. It seems you're the only one here now. Take out your phone and share what's happening with the world.
Get the stories. Wow. Okay. So we, in our call out for this jam, we said that the game was open to anyone, but that we would especially, want Palestinians to enter the game jam. You can research the developer of this game if you'd like to learn more about them and whether they're Palestinian. But the entries are by people from all over in solidarity with Palestine.
So, just to kind of clarify, just to kind of run through it for everyone what's happening here. Again, having a lot of feelings, kind of struggling to do this, I guess, on an emotional level. It is. We're using our phone, we're taking a photo, and now I can quite literally write what to post.
Yeah. Take your time, Bee. I just want to say Bee is got the controller in their hand. So if this is particularly difficult, please let us know, and we can take our time with this and anything you need.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I genuinely don't know if I can think of anything to write, and in one part I'm kind of curious to see what might happen in that case, because I think I just need to possibly click on the arrow there.
It's I mean, I'm not even sat behind the computer, but I kind of get what you mean, because there's something about seeing this that's it really gives a whole new perspective on, obviously we've been seeing people in Gaza, including journalists, but just, so many people experiencing these horrors and then posting about it on social media, obviously to try and, share their stories and hope that someone will do something by seeing their stories. But there's something about sitting here and taking a picture of a building with a missile in it and trying to think about what to write that really makes you be like, what the fuck could you possibly write that, what could you possibly write? How do you find words, actually? I feel like this is making me feel that in a way that I hadn't really considered before.
Yeah, it's... because we're in the unfathomably, the position where we don't have to think about what to write. I feel like taking a picture is one thing. That didn't kind of feel difficult to do, I guess, because games will, you constantly take screenshots. There are photo modes in games that it's quite a natural thing to do these days, and there are games like Umurangi Generation, which are quite literal photography games as well. Another game I recommend in just in terms of the kind of like political aspect of it. I think there's even some like relevance to what's happening currently, because you play as a photojournalist essentially, but then the act of having to write something, is unbelievably difficult. And in one way, I just simply I don't know if I can on an emotional level, and that kind of highlights the strength of Palestinians being able to do that at all, to even write a single word, let alone share as much as they have. But also because I don't think I could write anything nearly, I don't know if authentic is the right word, but I don't know, almost guttural in the same way, for it to be anything other than it's not, it's like kind of a thing of truth, and it's not a truth that I've experienced, and being able, and writing that is a difficult thing to, is an impossible thing to do. And yet there are so many people like Bisan and Plestia and Motaz every day.
No, I think that's I think that's exactly it. It's, part of it is sitting here and being like how could words possibly, like how could you possibly find the words? But you're absolutely right that part of it is also the fact that we have never experienced this. So whatever the truth is, the emotional truth of experiencing this is, that leads you to write something, it isn't there.
I think Charlotte is making a great point here, making the realization of how much everything about what's happening in Gaza, the Charlotte writes, has already written text that she's been able to reference or respond to, and here it becomes so clear that they don't have that. They are the primary source for that information.
It's a really, really good point.
Yeah.
I don't know, and I think it also highlights so absurd when you see them, when you read them, right?
Oh, sorry, you might have cut out slightly.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah.
So I was just thinking about it in this way, that that the only way to know what you would write is to have experienced it, to be experiencing it. It makes me think about how bizarre and strange Israel's propaganda posts feel when you read them. These posts that are basically faking having experienced trauma, and it's difficult to describe, but when you read them, it isn't real. And I don't know how to describe that exactly, but do you know what I mean?
I really do, because it's, I'm struggling to write something for a game where it will have no material impact on anyone else in the world. It's not a real social media, and I'm still kind of being forced to think through the ramifications of it, and yet whoever's running Israel's social media campaign, as they have done for years, it just kind of, as Charlotte says, it's an imitation of trauma. They're just posting whatever they want, and just clearly haven't put a single millisecond of thought into the truth of the situation.
Yeah, and I think I'd say even further, the fact that we're sitting here and being having not experienced this, how could we possibly know what to write, gives you another insight into what kind of person sits there and writes a fake post about experiencing trauma. What kind of person does that? I can't fathom that either. Okay. In terms of how we approach this, I think that one option would be to post it without a caption and see what happens. another option is obviously to try and come up with something, but I feel simply at a loss as to how to do that.
I think I would prefer, personally, as also just kind of like as a white person, I think it would, because I know we're engaged, even though we're engaging this like kind of like on a critical level and trying to take it on its own terms. There feels something wrong to me for me to have to write such a thing when it is just so far from my lived experience, and also kind of on the other end of things, I suppose I wouldn't want yourself to have to imagine that direct experience of trauma separate from the trauma you're already experiencing from going through this, if that all makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I think that I'd be happy to go ahead and post it without a caption. And the great thing is that if you'll want to try something different,
you're able
if
to.
you want to try and write something, then you're able to give this game a go yourselves and see what happens. But let's see what happens if we post without a caption.
Yeah. You must continue documenting what's happening. I'll search with the camera for our stories. I need to get back to Marwa. She must be frightened.
Wait, what did that say?
I must get back to... Oh, so it's interesting because like we're being spoken to here. Like we need to document everything with Jihad, and he needs to get back to his sister. Which
like
I also...
the player is being spoken to.
Yeah, which I think is also definitely some interesting things there in terms of kind of the responsibility of people taking part in social media and witnessing all of this.
Yeah.
Which I think I'd like to expand upon later.
Okay, it feels as if your trauma is being stolen from you and you're left with grasping for a breath of air as if waking up from a nightmare, like you want to scream, but your voice is stolen from you right before you do it. That's very, very evocative. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. It's true. It's true. The first thing Jihad does is to document. That's
also a very good point.
It's an important observation, Foosh. It's almost like he knows that nobody's going to believe him. Which I think really speaks to what it means to be Palestinian. And it also speaks to the fact that children in Gaza, there's a Visualizing Palestine post, amazing organization that you should go and follow if you don't already. There's a Visualizing Palestine post that went up recently that very evocatively shows that a 16-year-old living in Gaza has lived through 5 military assaults. So he's probably experienced it before.
Jihad, where's Mom? Your mum went to the market to prepare the special dish you love. Every time a rocket hits our house, Mum makes us delicious food.
Every time.
Oh my, the teacher will be so mad when I tell her tomorrow that the rocket burned my homework. Last year, Mum kept me home from school for a long time out of fear of the teacher after the rocket hit her room. Don't worry, I'll go with you to school tomorrow and tell the teacher that you're the smartest student in the world. I'll grow as tall as the palm tree and become the best artist in the world. That's the spirit, Marwa. We'll face this together, and you'll achieve great things. I believe in us, Jihad, but what do we do now? We need to find food. It's essential for both of us.
You doing okay?
Yeah, it's just like it's, you know.
Yeah.
And I think something that's like this, like, my best guess, this game is predominantly using pre-made assets. It's kind of what it looks like. There might be a few handmade things, but for the most part, I think there's a chance that it's like the rocks and the buildings and things are like it's made with Unity. It could easily be from the Unity store. And I really think it shows like the kind of the emotional impact that it's having. It really highlights how just things like that don't matter. Like it's a big thing for a lot of annoying hashtag gamers where they say, oh, there's an asset flip, this, that, this, or the other, but you can make something that is deeply emotionally effective, even if it's not, even if it's not, not doesn't look like the latest AAA game or whatever. That's just hitting for me because I feel as someone who generally prefers indies over AAA because I think they're doing a lot more interesting things. It's powerful in a different way, separate from kind of the story it's telling as well. Is what it's kind of the feeling. That's what I'm feeling.
Yeah, I hear you. Hashtag gamers are the weakest link as ever.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing the Visualizing Palestine link in the chat, Foosh. And yes, this child is having to be so practical.
Look,
I wonder...
No, go on.
Sorry. I was gonna say I wonder what happened to their parents. They don't mention a father at all, and it sounds like maybe they've just lost their mum. But go ahead.
Pardon me. Look, eat this. Where did you find these apples? I brought it from Uncle Saleh's store. Uncle. So the name has been spelled twice differently here. It was S-A-L-E.
Saleh.
Pardon?
Yeah, it's just a anglicization thing. I can do a bit of reading if you want, because I can read this big text.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, Uncle Saleh. I promised Selwa and Layla, his grandchildren, that we would play today in the square in front of his store. But my mother won't let me out because of the missile. She worries constantly. Don't worry, I will go with you so that my mother does not worry. You are the best brother ever.
Okay, the next airstrike will hit in 3 minutes. I think 5 missiles will hit.
What?
I must find a way to protect Marwa and make the missile hit non-vital areas. I think I can use mirrors and stands to catch the pilot's eye.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Oh, I am literally being timed.
Oh my god.
Okay, so I have to take the mirrors and then place them on these stands.
Yeah.
Oh god, that's...
Yeah, this is, I mean, this is really fucking good, but it's really heavy, obviously.
Yeah, I have... God, I cannot see any more mirrors, which...
Is it the glowy beams?
So these are the stands, and I need to put mirrors on them? Oh, I can move these.
Oh, okay.
Can I move it while it's on? No, I guess I can't. Oh, there's one over here. Oh, yes, I can see them. Kind of as Charlotte pointed out, the little shadow.
Sorry, I had a second where I thought that the like light was meant to indicate where the mirror was.
No, I understand, but I think I found them now. No, I think there are all four.
Oh, I think that's Uncle Salet's shop.
Probably, yes.
It's like the crates and stuff.
Okay, I think we need to wait now, essentially. It might be the point of moving the stands, so...
To move them into the right spot, yeah.
Must find a way to make the missile hit non-vital areas. I think I can use mirrors and stands to catch the pilot's eye. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I'm meant to be able to move the stands again once they're...
Maybe it's difficult to know where to move them right now.
Yeah, I think unfortunately because I placed the mirrors on them, I can't move them anymore. So...
The idea of having to choose non-vital areas is so heavy.
Yeah.
It definitely is fair. I feel like the fact that this is timed and the panic that I felt when he was announcing it as well kind of really puts into perspective the fact that these airstrikes are happening all the time.
Yeah. You might not be able to hear, but there is like a air raid siren playing currently as it's counting down to the final few seconds.
Yeah.
And you can like hear them in the distance as well. I don't know if you can see the
shadow. I mean that's terrifying.
That kind of ties into what I was talking about with the isometric perspective, like not even seeing the planes, but them still having such a presence. And then just immediately I must find a way to free Marwa. I think I have to search for the remains of the metal bars that fall from the missiles.
You think the game audio is slightly lagging?
I think the slightly glitchy audio might be because we're playing it through a browser. Because of the fact that you can run it in a browser, I thought you weren't able to download it. Made a slight mistake there.
Yeah, this game is terrifying.
Yeah, it is. And hello, welcome.
Welcome, Ashraf.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining. We're playing this second one so far, and I mean, so far these are absolutely incredible.
And yeah, making a good point that having to use parts of missiles that are destroying your home to free yourself from rubble is actually heartbreaking. It is.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Maybe using them to lift the stones will help. Oh god, okay, so I have to... Right, there's going to be another raid. So I both need to move the stands and mirrors. And
yeah, I can... it would be interesting to... Like, the game is just on browser, right?
Yeah. You can download it. You can download it as well.
Oh, you can download it.
Yeah,
okay.
I just made a mistake.
That's fine. Don't worry about it. But again, we really encourage you guys to check this and the other entries out for yourselves, and if you download it, then you might be able to see if the audio stutter is intentional or not. Because I honestly, if it is intentional, I think it's a really interesting choice and very evocative. No worries, Farouche. I just wanted to check that we weren't having another audio issue.
Yeah, no, thank you for flagging things. I appreciate it constantly. I don't even know where the metal bars are. Because we need to find 3 of them in a kind of typical video game quest, which is okay.
Oh, there. Okay.
Oops. Okay, I might have just lost one of the bars. That might be a slight... Oh no, I think you just have to pick it up. I'm not sure where the last...
Yeah, maybe you just have to collect them and... Yeah. Okay.
Don't actually know where the last stand is.
Something lit up near the stand with the shades.
Ah.
That's weird. Which I think is Uncle Salet's shop.
Oh, it might be apples?
Ah.
Oh god. Okay.
Jesus Christ. Oh, where's the mural?
I think I know where it is. I'll go back to it once I'm able to.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, this is like I can feel my heart going off.
Here, just at the bottom.
There
if
we
you can
go.
see it. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for pointing that out, Fwoosh. So this is a mural of a Palestinian man holding a key, which, for those of you who don't know, is a symbol of Palestinian faith and return. So basically, where that comes from is that many Palestinians who were displaced from their homes during the Nakba took their keys with them when they left their homes. You know, some of them, I think, because they genuinely thought that they were coming back, but it's something that many Palestinians have done since then for generations. You know, because the forced displacement and ethnic cleansing of Palestinians continues. And those keys are passed down from generation to generation. So, you know, I've got Palestinian friends who, like, have the key. They have the key that their grandparents had to their house in Palestine that no longer exists, which is obviously horrific and sad, but is meant to demonstrate, even if it's not physically possible anymore, the faith that people have that they will return to their homelands and that Palestine will be free.
Thank you for sharing all of that, Sara.
That's okay. I feel like I've got the easy job here.
Currently, unfortunately, I'm just struggling to find the steel bars.
Yeah.
I'll go see if I can talk with Marwa again.
Okay, yeah, it doesn't hurt to try.
Marwa, are you okay? What was that sound? Was that another missile? Don't be afraid, you are safe. I heard a screaming sound. Don't be afraid, this will stop soon, I'm sure, and we will all be fine. Tell me, are you thirsty? Yes, I may need to drink some water. I will get you water right away. Okay, so again, we have to find a bottle of water and bring it back to Marwa, but also avoid the raid. And there's another metal bar there, right? So yeah, we just need to talk to her.
I think someone mentioned it in chat earlier that Ahmed, is it Ahmed who made this game? I I forget the name of the person who made this game,
I believe so,
but
yeah.
he did it in 3 days apparently.
Wow.
Ahmed Mustafa. Yeah, thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, just to be able to like make something like this in such a short time frame.
It's incredible. Like he's done something really amazing here. I on the off chance that you're listening, Ahmed, I know that you weren't sure if this could help anyone, but we want you to know that that this is amazing, and I think that this is clearly already helping many of us who are playing it now and who are watching in the chat to think about things and process things in a way that we weren't before. So thank you for making this.
Very much so. And unfortunately just kind of have to wait it out. I think that's like the like knowing that it's coming in terms of like down to the second is obviously not necessarily something that but to have a countdown like this is not what. Sorry, I'm trying to I guess figure out my feelings on this, because
That's okay, pal. Take your time.
Like having a literal countdown to when the next raid is almost a luxury. Like it's stressful playing it and having to do this within a certain. I'll let. It's having the timer is like timers in games are meant to be stressful. Like when they count down, it's the point of them. It's an age old bit of game design, and it's been kind of recontextualized here. And yet it is this kind of luxury that Palestinians don't get, being able to see how long you have and to know, right, I can do this in this amount of time and make myself safer.
Yeah.
It's
yeah, I know what you mean, because they have like they have no idea like when the next air raid is coming, and there's just never enough time. Just never enough time.
Yeah, not to mention steering the targets away from you, and again, like I think this game is mostly doing things that are pretty standard bits of game design. Go get a thing, go move a thing around, do a thing within a certain time frame, but it's been contextualized in such a horrific environment that it's just completely there's a completely different feeling to it.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, and I think it's a real testament to the fact that like you can use elements that exist in a way that is creative and evocative.
Yeah, because this is kind of, I guess, applies to like art broadly. I am very pro. Not that like these kind of aspects of game design that we're mentioning are tropes necessarily, but tropes within media or kind of like pillars of game design, things like that like, well, everyone's kind of done it already. This is just a really good example of, as you're saying, it's you can use these things that people are intimately familiar and make them so desperately uncomfortable, which is what's happening now, and powerful, and you don't even really need to completely, you don't need to think massively outside of the box, and yet it is just the framing, the narrative framework here changes it completely.
Yeah, it's a brilliant way of articulating it, Bee.
Look what I found. I hope that this water is like that water that used to come to us a year ago. Haha, my father always said that it does not kill as quickly as new water. Pardon me. Oh my god, where did Safi, a stuffed animal, go? He was in my hands, and he's scared to sleep alone. Don't worry, I'll find Mr. Safi. I'm sure he won't run away. I must find Safi and bring it back to Marwa. I only need one more bar to set Marwa free.
So, that would be a reference to the ongoing water crisis in Gaza. Manufactured water crisis, I should say. I think that sometimes when we talk about it, we depoliticize it, but basically, as I mentioned earlier, the blockade that Israel imposed on Gaza in 2007, which has been in place since then, and means that Israel controls the movement of goods and people into and out of Gaza, has massively affected sanitation and the provision of water. So while Israeli settlements redirect water to themselves and over consume water, Palestinians are incredibly restricted in the amount of water that they receive, and a lot of that water is not sanitary. So the circumstances are, they vary.
Oh, you might, okay.
For example, like, Palestinians are not even allowed to collect rainwater. Like, that's how dire it is. They're not allowed to build wells. Israel makes all of these things illegal. And in Gaza, the entirety of the Gaza Strip has one aquifer, which is not enough for approximately like up to 2 million people who have been like forced into that tiny strip of land. But it also means that they end up inevitably over pumping the aquifer, which contributes to water pollution. Not to even mention the way that like repeated military raids destroy infrastructure, which leads to the poor sanitation in Gaza. So I know a lot of people have been learning over the past few months about the water crisis in Gaza, but it's nothing new, unfortunately.
Again, thank you for detailing that for everyone. And just quickly need to say, unfortunately, I think I've kind of gotten myself out of bounds. I might need to restart. I did have a save file, so just bear with me a second as I see if I can... okay. I'm going to hope that we're not completely locked out.
It's okay, it happens.
If it is a case that, unfortunately, I've kind of soft-locked the game, we might have to move on to another one. Let's see if it resets it or not.
Yeah, it's no problem. I mean, at the very least, that would be a shame, but at the very least, you guys will have seen a lot of it. And again, I know I keep saying this, we really, really encourage you to check out these entries for yourselves.
Cool, we've been reset. So yeah, we need to find Safi, the stuffed rabbit.
Okay, great. Yeah.
I think, again, this is something that possibly people watching will be able to see more easily than you will, Sara, because of the level of detail, but kind of here where the missile is, you can see, like, a drawing from, like, clearly meant to have been made by a child of a family.
Fucking hell.
At the top of the hospital, you can see a hospital bed, and in this building it looks like there's a bookcase and possibly flowers or cards or something. The detail there is hard for me to tell, but just as little bits of detail.
Yeah, that's incredible, and I'll definitely like play this myself and watch this back to kind of be able to appreciate that detail. But for people who don't know, yes, Israelis do indeed not only write on the bombs that they drop on Gaza, they also encourage their children to do that.
It's... Yeah, I mean, I think it was an American bomb that was being, like, sent over to Israel to use, that was signed by the NYPD. Also, just as possible reminder, or just for people who don't know, American police forces are trained. Some American police forces are trained by the IOF, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so distinct and horrific ties there, and is an obvious indictment of, in particular, the American police force, but any kind of force like that, whether it be the IOF, whether it be the NYPD, or any other American police. ACAB always, absolutely.
Yeah.
Marwa, Safi, I was so worried about you. Don't cry. All of this will stop soon. Don't be afraid. Our mum will come, make your favourite dish, and we'll eat a lot. We'll sleep in our beds and wake up in the morning to go to school. I'm definitely going to allow the message, fuck the police and fuck Israel.
I know. I saw that and I was like, allow.
Yeah.
We see you, Twitch, trying to police us.
Jihad says, what will you do with Safi after that? We'll grow up quickly and draw for the world to convey our message, so our land becomes free once again. Jihad says, as long as we have the spirits within us. Mara says, I think you should look for the metal bars that fall from the raids. Maybe they will help lift the rock. Ah, okay, we can. Should we find a safe place to go? There is no place safer than our land. We will never leave our land. If we leave our homes, there will be no one to make peace with. Well done, we will stay. As long as we have the spirit within us.
Wow.
More than 9,000 people have been murdered at the hands of the Zionist bombing. 3,760 children. 2,623 women. Stop genocide. Save Gaza. And yeah, Ahmed Mustafa there.
By Ahmed Mustafa. Yeah, please go seek them out, like, and play this game and support this incredible project. Wow. Yeah, I think I've got like a couple of additional reflections before we move on to the next one.
Absolutely, please share.
I was thinking this like when the game started, and you know, when you read the description, and I thought it at the end there as well because of what Jihad and Marwa said. You call it the character Jihad feels very intentional, right? And I think that it's worth talking about that a little, because jihad is a word that has been, you know, taken and kind of by the Western world, and it's been associated with terrorism, and it's been used to kind of enable these racist Orientalist narratives about Muslims and our, you know, inherent desire for violence. But this requires like a complete misinterpretation of the concept of jihad, which jihad means like struggle, like it means the struggle or to struggle or to strive, and the Islamic concept of jihad is, again, I think that people often simplistically interpret it as like meaning holy war, but that isn't quite right. I think that jihad is something that, you know, I would say that I, as like a left-wing Muslim, believe in. And I think that there are many who would interpret jihad as meaning, you know, fighting, struggling for justice. And, you know, of course, there are many people who have interpreted jihad in their own way and twisted it in their own way, like many religious concepts, right? But when this, you know, boy, Jihad, is finished the game by talking about the spirit, you know, like the spirit within us, it felt like it was trying to draw on this idea, which I've, you know, always found to be very beautiful in the Islamic faith, the idea that it's our duty as Muslims to struggle for justice, to, you know, engage in jihad. So I think that that's really beautiful. And the other thing I was thinking just at the end there was that it's heartbreaking, of course, but also so beautiful the way that Palestinian children at such a young age have been imbued with such hope and courage and steadfastness in their belief and their love of their land. It's heartbreaking, of course, that they even have to be in that situation, but sometimes I think when I hear Palestinian children speak, it's just like incredible and beautiful. You know, how much they love their home and how brave and incredible they are. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional.
No, that's okay.
But yeah. Arabic is the language of poetry. It's true. It's such a beautiful, beautiful language. As Edward Said puts it, a language of great intellect, of comedy, of poetry. Yeah. Go on, B. What were you gonna say?
I guess just in a way that I'm processing it all. It. At this point in my life, I think the like games as art conversation is a bit rote, is a bit overdone, because people will point to games that, and it's, you know, it's you know, people are obviously allowed their own emotional responses to things, but personally, I think even still, despite games being kind of the thing I love most in life, out of any kind of media, and finding them so special, I think that's mostly because of their potential to be special. Because I think about the ways that I've emotionally responded to films and television in the past, and I think it's often a lot more visceral, even without those interactive elements. And I just feel that Sound of Silence has elicited that same kind of response in me, where I am really trying to take as much of it in as I can and figure out my feelings, because they're not all entirely clear. You know, I played Final Fantasy 16 over the holiday season recently, and I found it quite dull and just pretty par for the course AAA affair. And it's one of those kind of things that you experience and you go like, ugh, games can be a bit rubbish, can't they? And then you have something like this, where you see the potential that there is for, you know, it's there's also other conversations in terms of like games being good for experience, like in as like empathy machines, which also kind of doesn't really quite work. Like this isn't, you know, none of us here experienced a raid today. It is just through the lens of a game, and it is emotionally affecting, but it's not like truly experiencing. You're not really being put in these people's shoes, but it I think it shows the importance of narrative design. And just to explain that for because it's possibly an unfamiliar term to some people, mostly because it's quite a new role in the industry, relatively speaking. Narrative design is kind of the intersection between game design and writing, basically story writing. And I guess an easy example of that is like if you look at Breath of the Wild, the narrative design is interesting there because, you know, you'll often see people telling stories of the cool thing that they do. I guess Tears of the Kingdom is better, where like they'll build a machine and then they go on a little adventure, and the narrative design there is the tools that they provided players in order to build something to kind of tell their own stories with. While having a story, it tells itself, but it's often when you give players tools to tell their own things, or do interesting things. Like to pinpoint my favorite bit of narrative design in Sound of Silence, it was the having to take a picture and post to social media. It is a gameplay feature, mechanic, whatever you kind of want to call it, but it is also telling a story as the feature is happening. And a lot of AAA games, they don't really have very good narrative design. It's the age-old classic line, Ludo narrative dissonance. You know, you'll have a cutscene and then you'll do the gameplay, but the two things aren't really connected.
Yeah.
And we were speaking about it a bit while playing, in terms of, again, like a lot of the game design here is technically, like on a technical level, basic. It's nothing that I haven't seen anywhere before, but it's that recontextualization of the story that is being told that makes it so evocative. Because we're seeing more like phones in games as well.
Yes. Yeah.
And like I guess the one I can think of most recently is a game called Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, which is a sort of spiritual successor to Jet Set Radio, and like you have a phone in that where you can listen to music and things like that, and I think that's also interesting, including technology in such a way. I think it's because we have so many games that are like fantasy games, you don't see it as much, and even in sci-fi games you won't necessarily have like a mobile phone. Yeah, I feel like I don't have a point to end on this. I'm just kind of, like I said, I was processing it, and I think I was processing aloud a little bit.
That's more than okay. There was some very, very great processing. Thank you for that, Bee.
And yeah, exactly, the best games weave narrative and mechanics together, which I think this game did like amazingly well.
Okay. How are we feeling about maybe trying to get a couple more in there, because then we'll be halfway, and then maybe we can call it a night and do a part 2.
Yeah, I think the next one, because it's a poem, we can probably that'll probably be finished quite quickly, as long as we don't I mean, well, more in terms of I mean, I think the thing is, I could easily talk about this game probably for another hour. But yeah, for the sake of time, let's go through some more. And yeah, the whole, I want games with worse graphics, with people that are paid more, and I'm not kidding. It's something along those lines, as said by Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, no, and I mean, you know, we can always talk more about this game in other contexts. But yeah, I think if we could get through around 4 or 5, that would be a good goal.
For sure. So up next is a Rascal Children of Gaza, a originally a poem by Sarah. Could you tell me how to pronounce the name, just so I'm not butchering it?
How's it spelled?
Uh,
Because I can't read.
oh, sorry. Khaled Juma, Khaled space Juma.
Khaled. Sorry. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna pull up the Game Jam page on my computer.
Sure.
Rascal Children of Gaza by Khaled.
Oh, no problem, Fush. Thank you so much
Juma?
for joining us and providing us extra context on language, and also just being here, taking part, and things like that. I really appreciate it.
Bye, Fush. Yeah, thank you so much for being here. Yeah, go and get some sleep. Hope work is okay tomorrow, and thank you especially for your contributions around helping with Arabic language. Juma as in Friday, perhaps. Yeah, that could be the case. So Juma is, for people who don't know, reference the term, I guess, like in Arabic for Friday, which in Islam is our like holy day, I guess, like for lack of better word, like Sabbath. So that's what Juma means, and it's possibly this guy's name. Sometimes, sometimes it's difficult to know how to pronounce an Arabic name when you read its Latinized version, and the only way that I can explain this is that Arabic has letters that don't exist in English. So sometimes when you read it Latinized, you're not actually 100% sure how to pronounce it, because there might be a couple of different ways to pronounce it in Arabic. But if I read it in Arabic, then I would know how to pronounce it,
Sure.
if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. I mean, isn't it like the letter P doesn't really quite exist in Arabic, right?
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, I thought, yeah. Which, yeah, that's fine. Anyway, I will introduce this game. So this is by Atia Nova, who describes it as an interactive version of the poem of the same name. And there's a point about the submission for the Game Jam here, saying how when I first read this poem, it felt like a punch to the heart. I wanted to focus on it for my Game Jam submission as a response to the dehumanization of Palestinian children that I've been seeing. I hope that by engaging with this jam entry, people are encouraged to look at more Palestinian poems, to read their stories, and learn more about their plight. Which I think is a wonderful thing to encourage people to do, and I would absolutely do the same.
Absolutely. So I'm just briefly looking up Khaled Jama. He was born in Rafah, which is in Gaza. It's the part of Gaza that borders Egypt, and was raised in a refugee camp in the Gaza Strip. Over 2/3 of the Gazan population is refugees, and has an enormous portfolio of poetry, short stories, children's stories, and more. So if you want to check out any of his work after this, then please go ahead.
There is actually also, we can click on a link here. Yeah, so there's actually just links to his Wikipedia page. So also that'll give you a good kind of rundown. You know, it's got a list. You should be able to see it on screen now of poetry, children's stories, and song lyrics, as well as theatre plays. So plenty to check out there, and to learn about and take part in. Wonderful. I will get the game started. Cool. I think I can make this full screen as well. Okay.
The Rascal Children of Gaza by Khaled Jama.
Thank you. You who constantly disturbed me. With your screams under my window. You who filled every morning. with rush and chaos. You who broke my vase. Pardon. And stole the lonely flower on my balcony. Come back and scream as you want. And break all the vases. Steal all the flowers. Come back. Just come back. Just come back. Just come back. Just come back. I don't know if this is looping or not, actually. Which I think it might be. Which...
Sorry, I'm crying.
Yeah, I'm trying not to, a little bit.
I've read this poem before.
I have as well.
It's definitely made me emotional before, but delivering it in this way is definitely hitting different.
Yeah, so there is no end by the looks of things. It is, as you can see, I can move the arrows back and forth constantly.
Oh my god.
And, yeah.
Yeah, the number of children getting fewer each time, and then you're just stuck on just come back, just come back, just come back.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. Crying in the library. Oh, pal. At least I'm just crying in my bedroom. Yeah, this was a very beautiful way to illustrate this poem.
Very much so. I didn't actually know the name, but I have read this poem as well. And don't. If you have something to say, feel free to say it. I guess I'm processing once again.
So when you pulled this up, I looked up another poem that it reminded me of that I think that people should know about because it's amazing and the author is amazing. So for people who don't know, this poem is by Ghassan Kanafani, who is a beloved, very famous Palestinian author who was also a political activist and a teacher and was murdered by the Israeli Mossad, which is basically their intelligence services. Ghassan Kanafani wrote a poem that goes, "I wish children didn't die. I wish they would be temporarily elevated to the skies until the war ends. Then they would return home safe, and when their parents would ask them, 'Where were you?' they would say, 'We were playing in the clouds.'"
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I don't I don't really know what to say either. I think I'm also just processing, but
I think
but this was just... Sorry, go ahead.
Well, just I guess to kind of tie into what I was saying about The Sound of Silence, it's I guess looking at it from a design perspective, which means that I can put a pause on the emotions for just a second. just for myself. It's
Intellectualizing.
yeah. I think this is again a beautiful demonstration of narrative design. It has a lot of it. God, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Utena and the
God.
shadow puppet girls.
Yes.
And that kind of style of theatre. And also kind of like, picture books, and you have those picture books where they have like little tabs and you move the paper kind of cutouts along, like as you might read to your children at bedtime, because it adds that movement in the book. That's what I'm getting here from kind of like the arrow and pulling it along.
That's a really great observation. Like I think comparing it to a picture book when it's a poem about children is really quite powerful.
Especially paired with the kind of illustrative style to the art. It like children's books like that can often be poetic in a way, but in a quite I guess kid-friendly way. It's not like, there's no fancy flowery language. It needs to be understood by children, but it's also not really necessarily emotionally challenging because it's, the dog went to the zoo, and I think one of the most interesting things, again, like this and Sound of Silence has done is recontextualizing our expectations of Sound of Silence recontextualizes game design. This recontextualizes picture books and poetry in such a new light, in just such a powerful way.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point, because in terms of what you're saying as well about like what we understand to be the kind of standard content of children's books as well, like it makes me think about kind of unsettling that idea, because of course I think there's a particular kind of child that lives in a particular kind of circumstance that gets to consume these sorts of like mundane or even fantastical children's stories. And it reminds me actually that I have yet to read it, but I was gonna buy a copy because someone that I know is trying for a baby. But anyway, there's a Palestinian children's book that I saw being discussed. I think I follow the author on Twitter. It's called These Olive Trees. And I'll put the link in the chat, but it's a children's book by a Palestinian author, which, I'm really interested to check that out. And I think especially because, of course, like her being Palestinian and writing a children's book for Palestinians is something I'm really intrigued by, because, growing up as a Palestinian child is not something that's comfortable or easy in any way. But yeah, I think those are some incredible observations, Bee. And I think that the repetition also brings me back to the first one that we played, which is interesting.
Yes. It's it's this one like is obviously very, very purposeful. With the first one, there's always the possibility that it's, I mean, I think it's probably purposeful in the first one as well, but it's the horrific cyclical nature of having to make those wishes and having to wish for these children to come back.
Yeah.
And it just never really seeming to end, and that is terrible and powerful and uncomfortable and emotive.
Yeah, I think that the idea that it's not just the experience that's cyclical, but also the wishes that are cyclical is really interesting as well.
I think a good point from Charlotte there about how we might sanitize books for children so much for the sake of the white gaze.
Yeah, babes. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, I'm not obviously, I am not Palestinian, but, I think that a lot of kids who, like, grew up as racialized in a white, society can attest to that. Yeah. What was I gonna say? I was gonna say something, but then I forgot, so don't worry about it. Can't have been
That's
that
okay.
important.
And we're going to check out one more. This might just take a second setting up, just because I need to make sure that Sara can see it as well. So
yeah, no worries. I can. I had a quick thought that I wanted to talk about while
absolutely.
you do that. So take your time. Yeah. So I think reflecting on your very important point about children's books sanitizing a lot for the white gaze. Something that I have thought about a lot since I wrote my undergraduate dissertation is the idea of innocence and how it's deployed. It's something that I read about for the first time and, since has kind of really impacted my views on a lot of things in this incredible book called The Queer Child by Catherine Bon Stockton, which I have definitely talked about before and I definitely recommend to people. But, Stockton talks a lot about how, innocence in a way isn't real. It's an idea, and it's something that we impose on children, and often can be deployed in violent ways. There are a lot of ways that she takes that argument, but when she's talking about race in particular, I have some issues with her arguments about race because I mean, no surprise, ultimately that's a white woman, but she's got some interesting points about race, and one of them is that, one of them explores like how who is afforded childhood. It's something that's contingent on class and race, among other things. So being like a white middle class person entitles you to a childhood where you don't have to work or think about being abused racially or adultified and villainized by the police, right? So that question is something that feels really pertinent to what we were talking about. You okay?
Yeah, sorry, just processing. It's just a lot of emotions, and also simultaneously trying to set everything up. And I think I'm there. If you feel ready, I thought we could go for the one that kind of intrigued us a lot, which was resist.
Okay. Okay, I saw this one and I was like, I cannot wait to play that game. So yeah. I'm gassed for this.
So I'll get it running in just a second and making sure that Sara can see it. This one is by Infinite Tears. The description was just the word resist repeated over and over. I did see in one of the images of the game's page of a model of a character which looks to be possibly an IOF soldier. So I would potentially, I guess, again, just a warning of there could be some amount of violent imagery, but once again, I think it's important to, as I mentioned several times now, just confront this imagery as best we can, because we are not, obviously many of us have witnessed it on social media, but not from a first-hand perspective. So engaging with the art that is coming out of responding to, whether it's Palestinian made or not, but responding to this is incredibly important at this point in time. So I will get it set up, and I will just need to get this up for Sara as well.
Thank you for that, Bee. Yeah, and it just occurred to me one final note on that whole thing about childhood. Charlotte and I talked about that rather a lot in our playthrough of Life is Strange 2, which is, a story about two young Mexican American boys who experience racialized violence and are made homeless. And in episode 1, we talked a lot about the parallels between that and Palestinian children. So you can go and check that out if you wanna.
Okay, so it seems like for some reason this is not Sarah, you basically won't have audio. Unfortunately, I'll describe it to you. I can show you my whole screen, but it's not letting me specifically select the game for you.
Okay.
So I'll show you my whole screen. Oh, it says also share system audio, so I don't know why it's not. So maybe hopefully you'll hear it.
Okay, fingers crossed. Ooh, I can hear something.
Okay. So yeah, this is resist, resist, resist. Already I find the kind of boxy framing quite interesting.
Yeah, I've just gone from crying
Oh
to
god,
grinning.
okay. Sorry. Just I'm looking up.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, alright. So those are some giant IOF soldiers.
Yeah.
I can faintly hear some people speaking and shouting in Arabic as well, I think.
Yes, there is shouting happening in the background and sounds of cars and people on megaphones.
Yeah. Jesus, look at this. So, we've got barbed wire and we've also got the apartheid wall, which some of y'all might know about, but for those who don't, Israel, when did they build the separation barrier? It wasn't actually that long ago. Let me Google it.
Oh, there's music happening now as well. Oh, it's coming from this radio.
Oh, I think I remember the person in the server asking for recommendations of what to put on the radio.
Again, for your sake, Sarah, you might not be able to see in terms of detail, and it might also be small for people watching on stream because it is quite small on my screen. There's just many birds flying way up ahead.
Yeah, I can see small things flying in the air. Okay, so sorry, I was just gonna give a brief thing on the apartheid wall, or as the IOF like to call it, separation barrier. So the apartheid wall was built by Israel after the Second Intifada, which occurred between the years of 2000 and 2005. Intifada in Arabic means like an uprising or a rebellion type of thing. And essentially one of the responses that Israel had was to build a wall around the West Bank. And ostensibly, this is because Palestinians are terrorists and we're protecting ourselves from Palestinians. That's what Israel says. But obviously, it's just because we're putting Palestinians in a cage, which is not dissimilar to the experience of Palestinians in Gaza as well.
So just again, we have a floating. Okay, now I have it.
Sorry.
Oh.
This is an excited gasp. Right, okay. Oh my god. I'm grinning. I know you can't see me right now, but I am grinning.
Okay, so we... Spray painted something.
Yeah, so also the apartheid wall is covered in graffiti. If you've never seen any of the graffiti on it before, I would really recommend Googling it.
Thank you. So we'll head back to where we just were to see if... Oh, wow, okay, yeah.
Existence is resistance.
Okay. So I'm assuming that what we're doing is looking for these kind of graffiti points.
Yeah, potentially, and well, maybe potentially there's other like acts of resistance as well that we can. Oh, you know what's really nice as well is that I remember talking to the person who made this game in the Gaming Academy server, and that's just really nice.
So yes, actually, there are other kinds of resistance because, as you can see ahead, there is a slingshot. So we'll
Slingshot. Okay, so I get to talk about why all of these are significant as well. So yeah, graffiti again. The apartheid wall is covered in graffiti by Palestinians, which are full of political messages. The slingshot is also a significant symbol because, for folks who don't know, Palestinians often find themselves resisting Israeli military apparatus, which is one of the most powerful and expensive in the world, and includes tanks and bombs, with stones. And Israel is so afraid of Palestinians throwing stones that they made it illegal, and they often imprison young Palestinians, especially young Palestinian boys, for stone throwing. Some really incredible photography out there that you can seek of Palestinians using stone throwing and slingshots, in order to launch these stones as part of their resistance against the occupation.
Again, in the context of talking about photography, this is actually really reminding me of Umurangi Generation, which I mentioned earlier, which is a photography game made by a Maori developer, i.e. The indigenous population in Aotearoa, New Zealand. And in that you go around, you take photos, but you're not allowed to take photos of certain things. Okay, we'll acquire this in just a moment. And you also get like a spray can at some point. I think that was possibly in the DLC, and you can like literally do like graffiti on different places, and it's really reminding me of that.
We have obtained a Palestinian flag, and flying the Palestinian flag is something that has been, at various points outlawed by Israel as well.
And then an obvious difficult scene change.
Yes, the slingshot imagery is very David and Goliath, and that's actually something that's been talked about quite a bit before, especially by anti-Zionist Jewish comrades. Of course, the David and Goliath story is very significant in Judaism, some Jewish creators, anti-Zionist Jewish creators that I've followed, have spoken a lot about the irony, I suppose, that David and his defeat of Goliath is so central in the Jewish faith, and when you see a Palestinian boy using a slingshot to launch stones at an IOF soldier in a tank, you can't help but think, what does my religion say about whose side I should be on?
The Umurangi Generation ties are kind of coming through again because we have a camera here.
It's also bringing it back to Sound of Silence.
Yes. I don't think I can progress any further, so all I can do is document.
Sorry, I keep gasping.
Okay, having a lot of feelings about what's happening right now.
The floating soldiers. Yeah.
And the parts of the wall kind of all floating away as well.
Yeah, the wall is shattered. And you can move wherever you want to move. How crazy is that? I wonder how far you can go.
Well, that's what I'm going to try and see.
It's, of course, not insignificant after being essentially in a cage. How lovely. Daisies and something else, possibly poppies, which I believe are the national flower of Palestine.
I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah, fun fact.
I find the contrast between that and the way that the imagery of the poppy has been co-opted by the kind of right-leaning fucking A, you know?
Free Palestine. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, there we go. Here are some of the really famous images of Palestinian stone throwers. Here's some of the graffiti on the apartheid wall. Palestinian flag waving. This was amazing.
Yeah, this was like... And the
Oh, we got some music credits.
Palestinian national anthem piano cover.
That was amazing. I love that song. Obviously, I love them all, but like the emotions that I'm feeling from that one are so like markedly different because I feel like very joyful right now. You know?
Yeah, I feel like that was... I feel very glad that we kind of... That'll be the kind of, I guess, the last one for the evening with this note of... I mean, like, you know, it's such obvious imagery of the sense of freedom that the barriers being deconstructed, the soldiers no longer being an issue, the shift from black and white to colour.
Yeah, oh my gosh, that's such a wonderful point that I hadn't thought of.
And the field of flowers and kind of giving me End of Evangelion vibes a little bit, but kind of.
But like if Ava was hopeful.
Yeah, if it was a happy ending.
Yeah, it was. Gosh, it was just so good. I'm smiling, you know, and
Yeah.
I feel like when I was playing it, I was smiling, and it was really beautiful, and in terms of, you know, responding to our theme, it's really nice to see someone respond to it in a way that highlights kind of the history and the, you know, ongoing traditions of Palestinian resistance,
in all its different forms.
Which, in various different forms, absolutely, and also kind of it shows us or explores for us the theme of return, and return as kind of what a free Palestine looks like, right? Like that part of the question, like what is freeing Palestine? How do we do that? That part of the question feels like it's addressed. How do we do that? What are some of the ways in which we do that? And then the part of it that's like, what's the dream? What's the free Palestine? Also feels like it's addressed there, and it's just that's really lovely. obviously, like, all of these entries were incredible in their own way, but it's wonderful to see something like that kind of, like, hopeful.
It your point of kind of like feeling joyful, like I think the game kind of like sets you up to believe that expectation of the walls, right? Like you would like in the initial part where it's all black and white, you're so constricted in the space and how you can move, much similar to how Palestinians in Gaza have to live. I genuinely wasn't sure if I was going to get to like the edge and there'd be the field of flowers and whether I'd be able to walk in them or not. And then you can, and they're endless and beautiful, and that is like ridiculously powerful and evocative imagery, and is I think really wonderfully highlights why it's just so worth fighting for this cause. Is to give Palestinians that sense of freedom and the ability to return and to be in their homeland. Is what I'm feeling from resist.
And I think kind of importantly that, like, I am feeling that joy right now, you know? Like, I'm feeling that dream of freedom and the inspiration to resist, and I think that it kind of highlights for me how, like, how freeing Palestine is not just about freeing Palestine, you know, and sharing joy in the freedom of Palestinians and the dream of freedom for Palestinians is about freedom for all of us. Because that's what I'm, like, on an emotional level, that's what I'm experiencing right now. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's interesting. This is a very different note, but just to point out that it's interesting that, like, this game in particular kind of portrays the experience of Palestinians living in the West Bank, which is implied by the apartheid wall, the presence of the apartheid wall, and the presence of kind of the IOF soldiers at checkpoints. You know, with Sound of Silence, we had a game that was looking at the experience of Palestinians living in Gaza, which is, yeah, of course, you know, these routine bombardments and military assaults and so forth, and with the, I think with the Rascal Children poem, this is also mainly in reference, but not exclusively in reference to the children of Gaza, but the children of all Palestine as well. I think that the first poem, I think that it could have been interpreted variously, but I think it was also about the West Bank because of the way that the author and the game developer writes about going to the grocery store takes the whole day, because that's very evocative of living under the checkpoint system in the West Bank. And before I pass it back to you, Bee, just if anyone's interested in kind of learning more about that, there's a fantastic short film, which I think is available on Netflix and Prime, called The Present. It's a Palestinian short film that just tells the story of a man living in the West Bank and trying to buy an anniversary present for his wife, and the film very powerfully shows that takes him the whole day, right? And that's the kind of thing that was being evoked in the first one there. So just also to bring attention to it being cool to see different Palestinian experiences highlighted there, and also the theme of return. I guess that we didn't have any depictions or explorations so far, but we have more to come, of Palestinians living in diaspora. But of course the dream of return is almost constantly there in these games. Yeah.
Sorry, my silence is again. I'm still taking in everything you're saying, and also I think you put it really well in terms of how just across 4 games there are a breadth of lived experiences. Well, again, these are will not have been lived experiences. So wrong choice of words there. Experiences just in general of the lives of Palestinians, and I think it's really good at it's highlighted it's this conversation of like humanization that we've had on the stream, and how people are having and viewing Palestinians as people with all kinds of lives, of struggles, and obviously incredibly difficult struggles, but also potential, which I think the last one really kind of captured this idea of a potential future, and the acts of resistance that need to be taken to get there. Just that's what I feel like is kind of like sticking with me a lot, having played these games.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's both a diversity of Palestinian experience and also the unity of Palestinian experience, which is really wonderful. Okay, I mean, how are we feeling?
Feeling incredibly grateful that the developers featured today shared these works just with the world in general, I suppose, and I don't know. That's kind of that's a lot to think about. I would I'm going to just quickly post the link to the jam page in chat once again, just because I would really love people to experience these for themselves. I know everyone like who's been here throughout the stream will have seen them through the stream, but I would love for you to check them out directly, because I don't know if I can accurately describe the emotions I'm experiencing.
And that's okay too. We're both gonna have a lot of time to sit and process between now and the time that we get to the next stream. So I'm sure that we can talk more about any reflections that we have in the meantime then as well.
Absolutely.
I'm feeling much the same, and would just want to end on a similar note of it's such an honor to have been able to co-host this jam, and it's a privilege to be able to play these games and talk about these games. We're so grateful to everyone who took part in the jam. Thank you for making these incredible games. I don't even know how to express it in words, like really from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for this. And just, if at any point y'all hear this, just know that you're doing, you did something incredible. You're doing something incredible, and we really appreciate you.
Yeah, couldn't second that harder if I tried.